all I have to do is really ask somebody something. And I'm like, oh, wait, you do that? That happens to you too? Oh, all of a sudden, all the worry and any shame or guilt or I should have done this. It's like, wow, you can kind of sit with that a little bit. We're literally programmed from the ages of 0 to 7. We're programmed by our environment. All these thoughts come up and they're not even our thoughts.
Yeah.
They were the conditioning we received. At the end of the day, I still had a business close. I also realized how much that business was my identity. The outcome actually happened, but the steps to get there, I don't even know how that happened. Maybe there's a bigger reason. Maybe there's something guiding something bigger. Most people can't spend 2 minutes with their own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, it's not until you do that that you can see all of the unconscious self-limiting beliefs and self-talk that's going on behind the scenes.
I did not see a way out. I did not see the way out. And for the first time, it started a little bit seeping in, me questioning just my faith slightly. So I reconnected, prayed the next step, 30K in the account. Welcome to Ride the Wave, hosted by me, Jeff Fischer, and co-hosted by Mark Robinson, in partnership with the Ride the Wave Foundation. Visit us at ridethewave.org, where we're dedicated to empowering their lives through free resources in servant leadership, mental health wellness, and how to find a purpose. At Ride the Wave, we believe in the power of every story, talent, and voice. Our commitment is clear: to bridge divides, unite communities, and build an all-inclusive, modern campus for those experiencing homelessness. So let's dive in and ride the wave of positive change together. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us at Ride the Wave podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Fischer, and to my right, of course, is the man, Mark Robinson. We are so grateful to be back in Sky Llama Studios now. And real quick, before we begin, I just want to give a quick update to the audience. Last episode, you may have noticed some not the best quality at all. That was my home setup. I had just done a virtual online. At times, Mark and I are going to be doing separate ones, sort of like that. And, funds were a little low. It was a little bit difficult to keep this thing going. So it was something that was a little bit of a supplement there. Again, we really appreciate any of your support, any donations or anything you guys could do also. Be very helpful right now. We're trying to get to the campus. So we love you guys. Anything, we can't do it alone. We really appreciate it. Just wanted to throw that out there to give you an update. So if you get some low quality episodes, I'm working on that. I got to get a mic and stuff like that. But this episode is brought to you by 100% Chiropractic in Rockaway. And I personally trust Dr. Sarah and her team. They've helped relieve my shoulder pain. Their positive culture and personalized care make every visit feel like a step toward true healing. If you're looking to move and feel better, check out 100% Chiropractic today. With us is Chris Jones. Chris Jones is an exercise scientist. He got that degree anyway from Rutgers. He's the owner of Infinity Fitness, and he is a friend and entrepreneur. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And before we begin, I just want to first say that anytime we have a conversation, we get on the phone or we have any brainstorming going on, I really appreciate you as a friend. Really appreciate your perspective. I think that you have a very unique mind and you're a hustler, and I really appreciate that about you.
Well, I mean, obviously, we got a lot of connection going on. I feel like anytime we do get together, I'm thinking about the last time we went out for a burger, it just flows. But at the same time, we help each other get through whatever challenges, because at the end of the day, a lot of times it's just a slight shift in perspective. Having outside eyes looking in on your current obstacles kind of goes a long way. And the funny thing is, a lot of times we don't realize that we're all kind of going through similar situations. Might be different details, but very similar situations, like business and business, right? We talk about it. Then there's life and relationships. So we're all always going through very similar situations, but sometimes we're nervous to ask about it, right? Like,
That's a
hey,
good point.
and the first time like something's going on, if something's going on with my relationship or my business, all I have to do is really ask somebody something, and I'm like, oh wait, you do that? That happens to you too? Oh, all of a sudden, all the worry and any shame or guilt or I should have done this. It's like, wow, you can kind of sit with that a little bit.
Why do you think that is? What do you think prevents people from honestly expressing themselves
Oh,
and asking for help?
I mean, I think it's really our conditioning. From my perspective, growing up, depending on how you were raised, right? If you were doing something wrong, right, and your parent called it out continuously, I think that all of a sudden you feel like you have a perfection situation, right? So if things aren't going perfect, I'm not comfortable. I'm nervous. What am I doing wrong?
Mhm.
So then our self limiting beliefs start kicking in, right? But we don't even know it. We don't know it because we're literally programmed from the ages of 0 to 7. We're programmed by our environment. So at the end of the day, if you were always yelled at or you were hit or abused or beat or whatever it may be, or you couldn't do anything right or anything good enough, well, you take that programming into life. And then you're like, man, why am I'm nervous to do this? Man, somebody might say something about this. All these things, all these thoughts come up and they're not even our thoughts.
Yeah.
They were the conditioning we received, So I think that's why often we're scared to say that we're going through a troublesome time right now. Like we're facing a lot of challenges or obstacles right now. Like God forbid you have a business and you have to tell somebody that things aren't going good. I'm in the red.
Everybody knows
Like,
where I'm
oh,
at.
like we're in the red. Like, oh my God, you're in the red. Well, the other person might be at a nice, comfy career position. But as an entrepreneur, it's a little bit different. But you still feel that like I'm not doing good enough. I'm doing something wrong. So I always think it's good to take in all the feedback you can from the outside. But at the same time, you have to know that your journey is completely different than anybody else around you. So I think once you can find out that you can learn from others' experiences, but at the same time,
Yeah.
there is nobody that can walk the journey that you've walked. It's impossible. You're the only person that has ever been in your shoes to experience your direct experiences. So even though like we make judgments or we do these about other people, the fact of the matter is we've never been in anybody else's shoes. We don't know that one event that happened in their life that turned them or made them feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I think we just need to lead so much more with like love, compassion, empathy, because the more that you can give that to yourself, the more you can give that to others. So I think it's an unraveling process.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like life is a series of challenges that you have to go through, which are tests, but a revealing process at the same time. And I get what you're saying. Until I started to be very open with communication and being honest about the things that I have going on my life, in my
Yeah.
life, excuse me, and obstacles and challenges, I realized that a lot of people face those same obstacles or have similar situations, but similar but different. I mean, they just might have something that I can learn from each time. And a lot of times, the large majority of people do want to help because whenever I help, if somebody asks for advice, I feel useful.
Mm.
So it's doing somebody a disservice to not ask for their help because they want to feel useful. And it's a win-win situation. You're getting someone else's opinion. But when I was younger, and now that I look back, I was sort of wanting to be perfect. I didn't want the conversation to come to me. If I was in a circle, I was nervous. I don't want to look a certain way. I was worried about what other people think. And obstacles and things like that, I would fall apart when the wind blew. If a hard wind blew, I didn't really have a foundation until years later.
So, but you learned that like you don't have all the answers. Like none
Right.
of us has any of the answers. I think one of the biggest like factors to open up my awareness to life and to like let go of the worry and the perfection and all that. When I look back on my life and some of my most amazing blessings, I realized that I don't even know how I got there. Like I might have had a vision of
Mhm.
something, but if I look back for a moment and actually looked at how I got there, it never fully lined up with what I thought my strategy was to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a lot of avenues you have to go through that were unexpected. I didn't expect to run into what I did with NCK at all. It's diverted the path, but the end goal is still always the same.
Of course. So
we're
like
shooting for the goal.
Exactly. So at that point when I realized like, man, if I took steps 1 through 10 and this was the plan, and I realized like, okay, so the outcome actually happened, but step 1 through 10 didn't align at all. I'm like, maybe there's a bigger purpose. Maybe there's a bigger reason. Maybe there's something guiding something bigger. And then that was what kind of supported me in my faith.
Yeah.
Is like, wow, this outcome still happened. And right, so my ego mind, my control everything mind is like, you got this right, you got this wrong, you got this right, you got this wrong. But when I look at it, I'm like, the end all goal actually manifested in front of me. But the steps to get there, I don't even know how that happened. But it's taken me a moment of slowing down in my life, right? Like really thinking like, is this life? Like asking higher perspective questions.
Right.
Like, is this life? Like even the question of like, who am I? Like, where did I come from? Like, okay, so I know I have parents and I have brothers and sisters.
It is kind of bizarre that we would just be kind of walking around in these spaceship bodies on this earth that's spinning around so fast. And just every aspect, when you really, really, really think about life, it is kind of weird.
And you have to think about it. And I say, I have 3 children, 6 years old, almost 4 years old, and 18 months. And I've learned so much from my kids. Yeah. I think one of the things that I've learned is, first of all, one of my challenges was like compartmentalization, right? So like even if you think about Infinity Fitness and the business, it was like I have the business time and then I got family time. And I always tried to keep everything separate because that was the way, that's again, another source of control, right? I'm trying to control like, oh my God, my kid runs in and I'm talking to a new client and it's like, oh man, it's not perfect. And I'm like, you know what? There is no separation anymore. Infinity Fitness and my family, they're one. Right? I can't separate that. Matter of fact, I actually love having my kids at the facility. So why would I want to separate that? It's because of what I thought it had to look like for somebody to like appreciate the super professional look. When in reality, every time I talk about my kids to the clients, they love it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a misconception sometimes of our belief systems that things are separate. But what I realize is I'm a reflection of everything that I'm a part of at all times. So I find more of a level of unity in my life now, like togetherness and being able to move and shake from being super professional to being a dad, to being a husband, to being a friend, to being a coach. Like it all is one and the same. And I don't need to try to compartmentalize myself to make that a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. For me personally, it's faith. Faith comes first. I definitely got to get back. I've been slacking. I just talked to you before. We were talking earlier. I got to get back to you. I got to go to Infinity. Check out Infinity in Morristown. You guys got to go. Personal trainer or anything. Just you have circuit training, stuff like that. I got to get back into that. So it goes faith first.
Yeah.
Self, care.
Okay.
Then family. And the reason for that is because the self-care second, I know that if I'm on top of that and connected to faith, I'm going to be the best version of myself. I'm going to be the most energetic. I'm going to be the most happy. I'm going to be able to serve as a servant leadership, my team and my family. But it does get tough. I mean, it gets tough when there's obstacles with the business and life kind of throws things out. And I had to put out fires with certain things and maybe not focus. And I could kind of, talk about it a lot and annoy Kristen with it and stuff like that. So I had a learning curve there in the beginning too. But yeah, I really think that it's a choice. Everybody has something, but you can create your life if you're proactive about it. And in silence, it's amazing how you could, from the inside out, change your paradigm if you utilize the right tools. Like, for example, if I'm in a situation, I mind map. Mind mapping, you can research that. It's something where you put an idea in the center and you kind of branch out nodes of whatever that challenge is, and then a line out of certain things, maybe pros, cons, what you could do. And it just branches out visually because I'm a visual person.
Mm-hmm.
So taking steps on things you could do that works for you is important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you said faith and you said self-care,
those two are intertwined because
Okay.
for me, faith, I'm a Christian. So I
Okay.
believe in Jesus. You know, I go by the principles, gospel, things like that.
Gotcha.
A lot of it was formed that way. You know, definitely open to having anybody on the show. Mark and I, we're building a campus that's non-religious. So, you know, I think that there are connections, but that's what I resonate. And the self-care aspect is just right there. Because if I have, and I pray and I'm connected and I'm doing my thing there with the morning routine, if I'm dehydrated, if I don't feel well, but there's nothing better than being upright, especially as a man, strong. You know, when I was working out at your place, I had the, you know, I felt like my core was solid. You know, you're standing in line. Those components are extremely important to have going first.
Of course. I mean, I think all the components are important. And that's one of the biggest change. You know, I just actually want to go back to your initial thing of faith. You know, my whole life, it hasn't always been faith first, right? Before it was, I don't know how to say this, but it's not me first. It was like I could accomplish anything. I always had that strong belief. And so working 18-hour days, you grind away. And that's just how I was raised. But that's also how I thought I had to be in order to accomplish the dreams that I had. Like I had to grind. I mean, hey, at 6 years old, my mom's working 2 jobs, right? So she's working from 8 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. So I'm like, man, if I want to be rich, like, because I don't want to go through what my parents are going through, like I want to get out of this type of situation, then I'm going to have to work how hard. And so as you kind of like grow up a little bit, it's fine when you're young and you have no children and certain things. And then all of a sudden challenges happen and they force you to question certain things. So I feel that, you know, when my second facility had to close, it was about a year prior to that where my faith, it went from like me to we, I guess, right? It's almost like Chris Jones, he can't hold it all. I can't hold it all. What's going on? You know, I have grinded. I've worked 18-hour days. I have controlled my life. I've made the right moves. I've sacrificed certain things. And at the end of the day, I still had a business close.
Yeah.
So I also realized how much that business was my identity, right? So, which is okay, right? Tunnel vision, trying to make it happen. But
to a certain extent.
Well, exactly. But I was completely tunnel vision. Like, this is how it's going to be. And I don't regret anything. I don't regret any decisions that I made because that brought me to where I'm at. It forced me to question my life in every way, but it forced me to not only question my life externally, it kind of pushed me into a place of needing to go more inside myself and find out, okay, what's my life like? How do I feel about myself actually? Like, am I working 18-hour days out of creativity, purpose? Or is that also have some fear inside? Am I working 18 hours a day so I don't fail? Right? It's a weird question.
Do you feel like you have something to prove?
Exactly.
Like you want, whether it be past or whether it be just your situation alone, it's like, I got to do it and hustle myself. I do feel like that energy drain is so draining when you're on your own and doing that. You could offset by sharing your energy to other people by asking for help and by utilizing a village, because it takes a village of people. I learned that later, that I can't do this on my own. In fact, to get to a next level, it's impossible to. I have to rely on others, support, and people like yourself. If I needed something and I know how your mind works, I will call and ask your advice for something if that pops up. So having that network, a good network of people, individuals that, it's the one you have going up, they're going to be there when you're coming down. So making sure that's solid and your network overall, is just in place.
I mean, I agree with that 100%. But again, it's a lesson that I had to learn. And
Yeah,
I feel like,
absolutely.
we were talking earlier about people don't trust people anymore. I think that was one of the stages I was in, was like I had to do it all by myself. And although I had a great team, amazing team, the pressures of needing to be everywhere at all times, balancing two locations with family, with wife, with kids, new home. And multiple team members, 50, 60 team members. At some point, I had to stop because I realized, and again, this is more internal work. It's not necessarily truth for everyone, it's truth for me. And that's what I focus on. What is my truth? Because that's all that can lead me. So I look at my own lessons. I look at my own lessons of like, of kind of like what am I learning from this obstacle, right? So at the end of the day, it's taken me more inward
Gotcha.
to look at what are some decisions that I made? Why did I make those decisions? And what self-limiting beliefs are connected to those decisions?
Mhm.
And how do I free myself from that lifestyle or that expectation of myself?
Now, there are
Mhm.
certain strategies that you utilize. Do you write a reflection journal, gratitude? How do you go about getting to the bottom of that?
Yeah, I mean, I choose meditation as my number one protocol. So when you said faith and self-care, for me, self-care is obviously meditation. It's obviously taking care of my body, eating the right way. I mean, that's why Infinity Fitness is a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual place. So like
Yeah.
it's a combination and that's what this did for me, right? So closing a business brought me to a place where I actually realized that offering people just fitness, and not that it ever was like that. It was always relationships, and our clients could speak to us about whatever's going on in their life, and we would, give advice or something. Now it's like I don't even really give advice. I share my story.
Yeah.
I allow them to project their thoughts and their needs onto me so they can hear themselves and find their own solutions. So I'm more of like a safe space for people
Yeah.
to more go with inside themselves so that they can find out what the right thing is. And so for me, meditation though has brought me to that space. And although extremely challenging, especially early on when you're like, wait,
I got a lot going on in my
well,
mind.
yeah, like
Sometimes it's a little bit of a, like back and forth storm. So like, it's tough for me
exactly.
to quiet it at
Most
certain
people
times.
can't spend 2
Silence it, yeah.
minutes with their own mind.
Mhm.
And the fact is, it's not until you do that that you can see all of the unconscious self-limiting beliefs and self-talk that's going on behind the scenes.
So what do you say, Mark? We going on a meditation retreat with Chris over here?
Please.
Or what? We need
Hey,
it.
let's do
We've
it.
been nonstop, man.
Let's do it.
It's the scariest thing. It's probably one of the most scariest thing in my life was getting comfortable with myself and my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, faith, I'll give you something that I had recently really came through. And I said to myself, I'll never question my faith ever again. With the business, definitely it's been public. I've mentioned that a year and a half ago, cash flow, which was a struggle. Everything was caught in accounts receivable. And there was a significant amount of commission we were due. And I had an email sent, and I knew spreadsheet wise, like it was going to come later. So it would take a couple months. But the way the relationship was with the vendor, I wasn't in a position to ask for it or anything like that. I received the Spirit 3 years ago about, and my faith has been strong. I read scripture every day, read the Bible like 3 times, still continuously. I go to group, I try to every week. And for the first time, I was getting low with Kristen, married over a year, a little bit. And it was coming through. I'm usually more positive for the first time on the couch. I was kind of depressed. She had to help me in my room. I was really down. I did not see a way out. I did not see the way out. And for the first time, it started a little bit seeping in, me questioning just my faith slightly. I recalibrated a little bit. I'm like, I cannot do this. It took a few days too, or maybe even longer. I was down. And I'm like, all right, I got to adjust this. This is not something. So I reconnected, prayed, admitted my, faults, sins, these kind of things. Got back on track. Once I was connected back, the next day, 30K in account.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And it's pretty fascinating to me. There's really no logical explanation. I cried. I went into Kristen in the room and I mentioned, I was like, you are not going to believe this. I know it was God. And I know for me, faith is where the fight is always 100%. I've stepped into something that's spiritual and I'm fine with it. And I get that. And I understand too, that maybe not everybody's going to understand me. And the way this is growing, our network is being received by really, really great people regardless. And I just feel like it's such an amazing opportunity to also leave a legacy for my family. Like you were talking about family. Chris and I don't have kids yet, but this day and age, they're taking away generational wealth. Stuff like that is happening. So to shatter that glass ceiling and to be able to be in the wealth bracket and on the good side would be a true blessing while on this earth.
I mean, that's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
with my 3 children, personally, I don't want them to live the life that I did. I want them to live a much better life. Like I think about it,
Yeah.
And I know like life is a long-term lesson. You're always evolving and changing and expanding and growing. But you also think, man, because I'll be 43 this month, like if you think, man, if 40 years ago or even 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I wasn't needing to work through these conditioned beliefs, where could I be today? And it's not that I'm upset about that. What my life has been is the reason why I'm where I'm at now, right? It's like all of my experiences were perfectly played out. They need the way that they needed to in divine timing.
Yeah.
For me to experience not only like the grind of 18 hours a day, it brought me to a place of dissatisfaction. Like I can't do this forever.
And anybody out there should really listen to Chris and, everything, and, Mark as well in his life. Anybody that's really depressed, even maybe thinking of, ending your life or anything like that, you have to realize that in time, if you stick it out, God reveals himself along the way. And it is a revealing process, in my opinion. And I think that what you're saying is really important. So in those bad times, I also think that knowing how to suffer and not avoiding it is important. And what I mean by that is, what are you suffering for? Are you suffering for things that are petty, family arguments that mean nothing, amount to nothing? Or are you suffering for a true purpose? Are you in pain because you're pushing it to the max to save people? Or, so when I'm low now, because that was such a significant lesson for me, that was not long ago, I'll realize, all right, I'm suffering for Christ here. This is something that's for the mission. I'm going to learn. I'm getting pruned. When you prune a bush, after it grows to its fullest potential.
Of course.
Or I'm missing something. This challenge popped up. What else am I missing? There's something there. Or do I have to make a correction personally with something? Or is it just something I have to go and pass through? in order to get to the other side, because I think God puts up a series of obstacles when you want to go somewhere to test you. Do you really want this?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's
you
like
do?
a spiral. So you get a
Hmm.
test and then you're like, okay, I passed that test, and then it comes back around,
All right.
but at a different
Right.
intensity or a different
I like
level. So
that.
it's a continuous spiral upwards where you do get retested. And I believe it is a test of your faith,
Mm.
And so, like I said, my challenges have brought me to faith. My faith is unique where for me, I don't have any specific religion. For me, I have gone through, I've read the Bible. At least I haven't read fully the Bible. I read verses and I see how they apply to my life. My wife and I, we go to church on Sundays.
Mhm. And your wife is great, by the way.
Thank you
She's-
so much. She's actually amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. And again, even with that, how long could I not see that? How long could I not see that for multiple reasons? But I don't have a specific religion, but I believe it all comes together. Like anything that resonates with me, I'm like, doesn't matter what religion. It could be Buddhism, it could be Hinduism, it could be Christian, it could be whatever it may be. Things all resonate with me. And I don't deflect because I don't have that label. I still accept it as wisdom. Wow. How does that apply to my life? So I'm also in a place where, because I'm trying to grow and evolve into my higher self or into who I was created to be, I let all information come in as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And if
it's a surrender and receiving.
It is.
Yeah.
If it changes my mind, awesome. If I believe that the way that I think right now still aligns with me more than this new message, then I keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
So I feel more open. I'm almost like having kids has brought me also to like a level of things are okay. Like I remember my son Kobe, 3 years old. He would be happy one moment. He'd be crying the next moment. He'd be angry the next moment. He'd be happy again. He would be hugging. And I'm like, man, wait, that's okay.
Yeah.
That was one lesson that I learned. I was like, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to feel like you don't have it all together, right? Because you think about when you're younger, your parents are like, you better get it together, boy, right? You think about that. You're always, since a young age, trying to hold it together. In reality, our soul wants to just express. It wants to cry.
Yeah.
It wants to maybe be angry. It wants to be happy. It wants to be joyful. It wants to be loving. And so can you accept and surrender to those moments and be completely present in them?
On the flip side, I do think that there is a time and a place also. And those emotions could be a little bit much in certain circumstances. And meaning like there's a time to be professional. There's a time to do that. So if there's too many emotions all the time, that could be a challenge. And one thing you had mentioned before, which I get it, I would probably think I would want my children, God willing, Kristen and I do have kids, to have things. Do you think that the struggle you've been through though, and those hard times do breed success or that entrepreneurial aspect of getting through that grind too? And if a kid has everything and there's comfort, is that not preparing them for the real world?
I think that I'm going to answer this question, but I do want to go back to what you said previously before that. But let me answer this question.
Sure.
So I 100% think that kids need to be challenged, but I think it comes from the way that they're raised. Are they raised in a place of gratitude, understanding how well they do have it? And so at the end of the day, for instance, a kid raised with morals, with gratitude in their heart for what they do have, what they are experiencing, one raised not to judge, to accept everybody as they are. I think that kid can be a very empathetic, compassionate, loving, supportive person.
work ethic is important.
I
So
think
instilling a good work ethic.
I think work ethic is important depending on where it's coming from, because I've had to challenge my own energy with work ethic, right? So for instance, if
Yeah.
if people are working out of fear to pay their bills, that's different than working out of purpose to create something for others.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. I mean, isn't it nice to be working on a purpose? Something that is not just 9 to 5 and going in doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about all this? You've been awfully quiet over there. What's
I
the matter with you?
mean,
You all right? You feeling okay?
Gentleman
Mark.
was talking, so I mean,
No, come on in. What do you think?
But
What do you think, Mark? Just obstacles. What are some of the things that you've gotten through? Or, I know you've been through a lot, but was it your faith? Was it just determination, or just you needing to survive? Like on your end, what are some of the things you've been through?
I mean, as far as my faith, I grew up going to church. I did the being in the choir. I did the playing the drums in the band. I did all that. But as life finds its way of teaching you lessons and teaching you things, and learning from other people experiences through life and things like that, it taught me personally just to how to accept who I am, who created me, whether I be in a physical church or building or not. Like it really doesn't matter, as long as you have it in you to understand why you're here, who brought you here, and try to make your life as much as possible first good enough to where you can, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just good enough where you're able to help someone else.
It's powerful.
I agree, 100%.
I agree too.
I mean, like one of the statements that I think about all the time is, how do I bring value to this situation? That's how I live my life now. Is like, how do I bring value, regardless if it's a stranger, a friend, a family, my wife, my kids. How do I bring value? And that requires the best version of you at that moment in time, because we're always evolving.
Right.
But if you can accept the best version of you right here and now, you're always bringing value.
Exactly.
Right? But it's you feeling comfortable with yourself. You feeling comfortable that you belong here, that you're worthy. And these are all like underlying self-limiting beliefs that if you don't see that you feel unworthy, like I have to work 18 hours a day. You know why? Because I might have felt unworthy to be rich, right? So then I had to value my richness with my hours, right? So when you start to actually dissect how your mind creates these prisons or these obstacles, it's not easy to do. And at some point, regardless of trauma that has happened or situations that were negative in your life, at some point, I have decided to take full responsibility for where I'm at today. And I didn't do that from the outside world. I did it from my own internal world.
Yeah. Just like the coffee bean, Damon West, from the inside out, you can create your own environment.
It's inside out. Like, honestly, there's this quote, and I apologize, I don't know who exactly said it because I feel like I've heard it from multiple sources, but it's like, when you look into a mirror, the mirror doesn't smile back at you until you smile first. And so what that means is—
I just got chills from that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
what that means is, like, I'm looking in the mirror, which is the world. I expect the world to give me all this stuff, but yet I'm staying the same. But the moment I myself, inside of myself, smile at the mirror, the mirror smiles back at me.
Yeah, and you make a good point as far as that perspective. It's a perspective, really. It's that perspective.
100%.
But if you are looking at, it was Derek Jeter on the New York Yankees. It was a random game. Somebody I always looked up to, like younger too, and he was getting interviewed on the sideline. But it was, yeah, just, I forget even what it was. Stat wise, he broke something, whatever it was, can't remember. But when he was being interviewed, said, oh, congratulations, Brett. And he said, something like this. I really didn't realize that I did. I take the game every day, try to bat at bats, practice each ball that comes to me and take each step at a time to better myself, to get to greatness, something like that, not in those words. And at the time I needed it because I was really hyper focused on sales numbers. I was like, I gotta be number one. I gotta get sales, da, 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 da. I switched it. I started to be really friendly to people and cared about the quality of service I was providing and became more solution-based sales. And then I realized that's the key. The numbers come after. So stop looking at the stats, stop looking at all that, look at your skill set. Dr. Matt was on here and he's saying, like, instead of tracking things, oh yeah, I got to do this many push-ups, look at it as a skill. We had a whole thing on that episode.
Look at what is a skill?
Like, for example, even working out. Some people could get caught in, I got to do this amount of reps. I have to do this time of running, whatever it is.
Okay.
But you could also look at it as like you're developing a skill instead, and how you could, go slow with your motions and, make sure you're doing it properly instead of jumping into just pounding out, I 3 reps, like things like that. Like, you're developing a skill. You're not just working out.
Of course.
So if you look at it that way, if that makes sense, like for that example, but yeah, it's a perspective.
Everything
really,
is a perspective.
Certain service too.
Everything, even there's perspectives on the positive side or the negative side. It's all a perspective. And there's I think it was Tony Robbins that said something like, people's golf swing, sometimes they're only like 2 millimeters off. So when I think about that, it's like the slightest shift in your perspective could open up doors that you never seen before. So I choose to live my life more present, like I'm here, because we don't realize that often. And this is where you take 100% accountability and responsibility for your life. Is only you can live your life. None of us can live anybody else's life. So by doing meditation, which is vital in my life, and I work out and I eat right and have gratitude and all that. I do a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is, when you become more present, you're then also able to separate the past, the future, and now. All right. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that there's somebody who I knew from 2 years ago, and I always knew them as somebody who had an attitude. Okay. Well, our minds create our reality, right? So at the end of the day, when I meet that person, let's say I'm going to meet that person tomorrow, what most likely mindset am I already going in with?
Right.
What is it?
Well, it depends on the person. Sometimes people
attitude.
But most likely our mind's already going to project, right? Because our mind wants us to feel safe, right? Because our mind is survival mechanism, right? So our mind is always trying to predict the future, because we are like, either we have to survive or we want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. It's kind of like how our mind operates. So if I'm going to go meet with somebody from 2 years ago that I had a horrible attitude back then, when I meet them, my mind is already preparing that they're probably going to have an attitude again.
Yeah, there's a lot of assumptions, but also a lack of communication, whether it be business or anything like that. The gaps that get filled in are assumption and doubt.
Well, it is an assumption, but it's a natural way the mind works.
Right. But
so that's my point.
So you're saying to offset that, to recognize it, to have an understanding of that, and to find a way.
Correct. So what I'm saying is, the average mind is going to, like, oh man, I'm going home to see my family. Like, you're going to automatically assume your family is going to be the same, that you've always seen them. Yeah. And so your mind is going to be looking for the same things that align with your bias, right? So like what I do now is, regardless of what happened in the past, I choose to try to show up, and I say try because it's not perfection.
Mhm.
I try to always show up in the present now, not with an assumed bias of what that person was before.
Yeah.
I look at this as a very one-time unique situation that's never happened before. And so all of a sudden I go into the unknown of not expecting anything, not assuming anything, so that I actually can pick up on the things that I wouldn't have seen if I just went in there, but living in the past.
You could be such a good
Mhm.
influence on me right now because my mind tends to always be thinking about this thing. So taking a pause right now and doing that would be something that would be very beneficial for me.
Well, it's not your mind, it's all of our minds.
Yeah.
Like where our minds are unique, but they can be our best friend or they can be our worst enemy.
Yeah.
And so this is all stuff that I have learned and put into practice, right? Like, and it's changed my world, but it really came from the thought process that this is an inside outside game.
Mhm.
I
So
agree.
no longer am I like, man, this person is an angry person. I'm like,
Right.
what about myself?
Hmm.
Can I adjust to better understand the dynamics here?
Also, you're in a
Mhm.
sense looking at yourself in a mirror because you have felt that way before. You had that exact emotion where you were a jerk to somebody, you were mad, you were angry. So if you could have empathy over that emotion in someone, you know the feeling of anger, maybe it could put you in a position because it's tough to not react to the anger and that energy to rise up. But if it's like, all right, well, I'm looking at myself who's felt that emotion anyway. I'm going to show myself some compassion. One time somebody said, and it was really interesting. I tried it. I said, if you were to just go about your day, I forgot where I heard, go about your entire day and speak to everybody as if they were Jesus.
Yeah.
What would you say if your wife was in the kitchen? And it was him. I'm going to help you with the dishes. Would you be polite or what? Things like that. You have to, in a way, fool yourself, knowing that you're going to have certain patterns, put things in place to like get the booby traps out of the way or something. Like be enough
Yeah.
self-aware enough to know yourself.
Exactly. You just said it. You just said it. Self-awareness.
Self-awareness,
That's why the meditation for me became so vitally important, because you don't see the programming that you are habitually following in a loop, right? So like if I had to look at one of the things that I could see so clearly, it was typically there's like times when like I can get angry. And I'm looking at the times that I get angry, I'm like, that's just a habitual pattern that I observed. And I realized that that's just a pattern that I had followed because that's what I learned.
Yeah.
Like when somebody says something like this, I feel like I need to raise my voice. And as I've watched that pattern, there's like anytime something is happening, there's a split second, right? Let's say you're having a conversation with your wife. There's like a split second where you feel all this emotion arise and you're like
Yeah.
about to explode. And I'm like, there you are. I see you.
Okay.
I see that same loop about to happen again. And no, I choose a different outcome. And once you can stand up to that, you start to realize all the things you're doing in your life that's in that same loop setting.
Mhm.
But sometimes, like interrelationships show it the best because they're the ones who pull out the triggers in you.
Yeah.
So I always ask
Mhm.
myself, is like, what about this conversation am I being triggered? My wife might have asked me, hey, did you do this? And I could be like, well, da, 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 da. And I'm like, why did I do that? I could have just said yes or no.
Yeah.
I could have just
Oh,
said
I
yes
get
or
that. I'm
no.
relating to you right now.
Why did I have to like, and it's me, it's not her.
Yeah.
And even if it is her, I have to look at her, like you said, as a mirror, right? I'm looking at her as a mirror. Like, what about what she's saying and triggering me is still in me that I'm getting emotional about it? And I really come from this place of like, my goal ultimately is self-mastery, but you have to know thyself, right? Until you can self-master yourself. So I think taking that responsibility, and it's not easy. It's an ongoing, like every interaction though is a learning experience. Like
Mhm.
when you realize in your day how many opportunities you have
I know.
every
I
day
know.
to elevate,
Nobody
it's
takes
wild.
advantage of those
Oh
opportunities. Isn't it
man.
amazing how people, Chris, I'll sit there, I'll be polite. People will start to talk because this is where I'm at now. Because I'm surrounding myself with people like yourself
Yeah.
that are just so creative and forward thinking and they want to do amazing. And they'll start to just negative talk and like poke holes into things, or I can't, or, I've never done that before and stuff like that. I'll just lean back like this. I'll be like, you have no idea what you're capable of
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what's inside you. It's in everybody and it's dormant and it's dormant and it's little seed that's planted in there and it's in everybody's spirit. And like you said, it's that development self. You could birth it out. And for me, what started my journey of faith, I had read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Oh yeah. Love
That
it.
was my first book. My friend Jesse, his ex-girlfriend had it on the shelf.
Okay.
It was random. One day I just picked it up, read it, really kicked me off. One thing I did later too, for anybody also that I thought it was a really good program. If you're embarrassed about, you want to dig into your past, you don't want to talk to a therapist or anything like that, it was the authoring program by Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
And what that is, it's a software you get where you go through a series of questions and you dig into your past, present, and future. It's all backed up by real psychology.
Gotcha.
And you do it in privacy of your, so I like those workbooks and those deep dives too. And I feel like I'm due for one of those deep dives too. I did emotional, healthy spirituality or something like that,
Okay.
which was on the spiritual side, which was really great. But things like that, those deep dives, I even got to dive into the past still because we move forward so quickly and we just put everything else in the rear view. I feel like once in a while, we got to still go back and you got to uncover some things. But I haven't done that in a while.
What do you mean by that?
There's some things that are, I think, habitual patterns that are still there naturally from our environments when we were born and how we were raised. And I think that you can go back, whether it's through writing or being self-reflective and even being kind to yourself, like thinking also back, somebody, his name was Chuck, Allegheny Bradford through my NCK company. He said, because after a deal, if it closed out, we didn't get it. Poke holes in it, like here are the reasons why, da-da-da. But no, also he said, look at the reasons why it was good. What were the things that you guys did that was beneficial that closed it, the next deal? You know what I mean? So like looking at both sides, it's important to not just shut out one side. You got to look at your achievements each day. I think it's Dabo Sweeney, probably not him. I forget exactly what coach it was, college, said no matter what, how the players are, how the day is, if it's the worst day, he'll write at least 3 things that won't write that day.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's important. We can get caught up in the mud,
I agree. I mean, the way that I kind of live my life now, and again, this is more recent, is everything is for my best good. And when I say that, and I'll let you, you do your take on it. The reason why I say that is because everything is a learning experience. So if I have any negative feelings, that's okay. It's okay to process those because I have enough compassion, love, and empathy for myself these days and more space to understand that at the end of the day, I really know nothing, right? I can only have a perspective, right? And there's 8 billion perspectives, right, on life.
Yeah.
But I follow my own and I follow my own. But at the end of the day, when I think about everything is for my best good, the more that I have thought about that perspective, the more I can take golden nuggets from every single experience that either I could blame others for, or that I could be completely beat up about. And so I feel like my learning curve has grown so much faster with experiencing that. Like I'll give you an example. Let's say that I had a conversation with my wife and she triggered me a couple times. The Chris, right? I want this to be, here we go again.
Uh-huh.
Here we go again, right? The other side of me is like, why do I feel this way? what about this situation that's giving me these feelings? And I don't want to say negative. It could be whatever feelings they are. I don't like the label necessarily, but I'm receiving these feelings from this that I don't really like. So what about this interaction right now can I take from this?
Okay.
Instantaneously, I'm able to see myself. I'm able to always see myself and how I reacted. And then what I'll do is I'll jot that down in my head. And then the next time there's a situation, I base my growth on my response to that situation.
Gotcha.
Like I'll be like, wow, this time the same thing happened, but I responded completely different. And I'm aware that I responded completely different. And I'm also aware of the benefits by me responding completely different.
See, I believe scripture is God's word and there's a spiritual enemy.
Yeah.
And for me, in one day on this show, I'll have Kyler come in, Pastor Kyler, and share my testimony.
Okay.
With people. I feel like the connection with Christ in me is real, and that you can receive the Holy Spirit. And when you do, though, the shades are taken off a little bit, and you could see that there are certain tactics that are out there, and the beautiful thing is he's coming back. Love wins, and all we're doing is stepping into that. But it's really important for me in the meantime to serve God and to go out and build the campus with Mark and do these things. Because I really feel like the book of life is real, all that within every cell, within every part of my being, really. And I've had a lot of things in my life, died for a few minutes, ICU. I used to club and go to Exit on Saturdays, Friday nights. I took a lot of ecstasy, shrooms, smoked a lot of weed, things like that. Was never mean. I never really attacked anybody or was rude to women or anything like that. Just did stupid things and arrested a couple times for being under the influence and vandalism when I was 17. Little, things that looking back and being diagnosed with bipolar later and a late diagnosis and having manic episodes that were real serious ICU. I mean, man, we can get into it. We're living a time where I have seen things where I felt like I was in an elevator in the dark, a lot of noise going into this space, heat and feeling condensed. And I'm still myself in the background, like, what is this? Like, where am I going right now? The nurses came in, and this is the first time that was really, and each time it's interesting, got better, I was able to handle it better. It happened a few times. Henna tattoos. They didn't have henna tattoos. A nurse came in, glowing henna tattoos. The IV was coming from me into her head. And I was seeing all these images and these demons and all these sort of things. But on the flip side, I've also seen the sky open up. I've seen angels spinning around and I've seen light and clouds, among other things. So, those experiences are way, way more involved. And our human language is extremely limited. So there's no possible way I could ever really explain any of that. And I think that everybody is different. I think everybody goes through something and can relate to a certain extent. But I think that my experiences that I've been through, and when you look, I think it's Angel Studios, there's a lot of data on after death now experiences. So, or what's it called? Near-death experience. So near-death experiences, if you watch that, it's on Angel Studios. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is. There are finding now real proof or various patterns that are now statistically okay, there seems to be something to that and something
with
to
regards
this.
to what though?
With regards to similar experiences like hellish experience in heaven as well.
So like a separation.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like everything is spirit. So that's why when I say I believe everything's for my best good, it's not necessarily, it's like, I think like I said in the beginning of the podcast is at the end of the day, there's a level of dissatisfaction. Like the person who's drinking alcohol every day, one day they may hit a level of dissatisfaction if they choose to.
What do you mean by that?
And they would.
That could be a disease though that could just take over if it's alcohol. So they're not choosing.
Of course.
they're supplementing something for a substance outside world.
Well, what I believe is we're all coping with things however we choose to cope. But I believe it's more mental.
That seems like
than
to
it
go
is
with the
physical.
flow for me. It seems
What do you mean?
I mean, that seems too accepting of, because I think I look at that as like someone's addiction is a direct attack, and it's our responsibility to love tough on that.
It's a
and do
direct
that.
attack. What do you mean?
Like, not a direct attack per se. I guess that, like, I don't know if somebody would really choose that because their depression or what is going on, they're supplementing to ease pain there.
Like I said, coping.
Coping. Yeah. Okay.
I said
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
I might have missed that.
I said people use substances or specific behaviors typically to cope.
I missed it. Sorry.
Like, for instance, somebody who gambles, they're coping with something.
My bad.
Somebody who does anything, they're coping.
Yeah.
Me, myself, I had Adderall, like coping, right? How do I work 18 hours a day? Coping, right?
Mhm.
How do I make quick money? Some gambling, right? Cool.
Yeah.
So how do I get away from the uncomfortable feelings I have right now? Let me drink a little bit.
Cutting those corners.
Right? So but it's not until you choose to want more. And I'm not here to tell you whether it's a choice or it's divine intervention or it's God's grace. I don't have that specific answer, but there's something there, and it's one of those. So I choose to stay open without a concise answer on what it is, but that's also where my personal gratitude comes from, because I'm like, I don't know if Chris Jones made the choice. I don't know if it was divine intervention. I don't know if it was God's will to help me change my perspective. So that's where the love, the compassion, and the empathy comes for everybody's journey, and not the judgment. But it's also the level of gratitude that I have inside myself for creating Infinity Fitness and diving deep into how the mind works and how emotional trauma or mental trauma or spiritual trauma can affect somebody's life, because I can no longer disconnect.
Mhm.
But that gratitude for taking me out and allowing me to see different, right? I don't know where I go from here, but like see different allows me to see everybody as trying their best with whatever level of awareness they're currently at right now.
Yeah, gratitude, right? Isn't that key? Like everything that we're doing, if we were to ever get lost, and one of the things Mark actually brought up early on, he said, this thing is us. Like it comes with the team. We have to stick together.
Of course.
And we're the only ones that could screw this up by doing certain things. And also not only encouragement, but encouragement is fuel for the spirit, is what I was going to say there.
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, I got a challenge for people right now. I don't even care if you have a crappy environment at home. Try encouraging people for one day straight. Fuel them with encouragement instead of being like, yeah, no, you can't do it. Or yeah, I agree. You can do it. I see something in you. I believe in you. Yeah, keep going. You have a dream. Because sometimes we don't encourage each other, and that's huge. Chris, I just want to say, man, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Oh, it's amazing.
Hey, we got to have you come back on, man.
Awesome.
Come on. We have so much to talk about. This could have gone so much longer. You're such a great guy, and you have such a great perspective. Really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you guys having me. I mean, I know we've talked about this for some time, but to actually come in and see the beautiful studio and have a conversation with you guys, it's definitely a heartfelt experience, And to be able to speak and hey, not always agree on everything, but have different perspectives is a place that I want to be, because I can appreciate all perspectives. And I think that that's important for humanity in general as we unify in every way possible. So thank you so much for inviting me on. And I hope to see you at Infinity Fitness soon.
You know you will. And
we'll be glad to have you back again.
Please. Yeah. And it's not really, it's not just coming on the show. If there's anything you want us to post on with Infinity, anything on our website, it's a relationship that could go even further, or there's connections that could be also on the back end with other guests. So if you ever feel you want to do something, or there's like Dr. Matt and you would be a great pair up. But yeah, this was amazing. Thank you so much. Everybody, we really appreciate you tuning in. Remember, ride the wave. The path is to the person. Keep it going. Let's go. Mark,
Till
the man.
next time.
Thank you guys. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to Ride the Wave. It's been a pleasure having you with us as we explore ways to make a positive impact together. Remember, every little wave creates a ripple of change. We appreciate any support you can provide as we plan to build an all-inclusive, modern campus and empower communities. For details on how you can contribute through various platforms, please visit us at ridethewave.org. Until next time, keep riding the wave of change with us. I'm Jeff Fischer, signing off, but the journey continues.